Hi, I'm Chris Chadwick, Vice President of Healthcare Services here at MAC. Welcome to the next in our series of our video podcasts, this time on successful patient recruitment. MAC Clinical Research is a global full-service CRO with science at its core, high-performing clinical sites with an array of specialist facilities. Today, I'm joined by various members of MAC's senior team, who collectively take responsibility for all patient recruitment. And I now want to ask each of them if, first of all, they can tell us a little bit about themselves and indeed, more specifically, the role of their department at MAC Clinical Research. Can we start with you, Nikki?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, and thank you for inviting me. So I'm Nicola Armitstead, VP of Site Clinical Operations. And what I love about our department is that in clinical trials, they really don't happen without two key players, the volunteers and the sites that conduct the research. But all too often, those worlds operate in silos. Our department functions in such a way that as a CRO, we bridge the gap between recruitment and sites, ensuring that groundbreaking research from all over the world connects with the right people. And what's also great is I get to work with lots of innovative minds steering clinical trial delivery into the future modern tech era, because really the future of our medicine really does rely on how well we bring all those pieces together.
That's fantastic, thank you. So Craig.
So my name's Craig Birkbeck. I am the head of Global Patient Engagement Operations. One of the things that we're all aware of is that clinical trials are only successful through getting the right people in on those trials. And that's where my teams come in, Chris, because what they will do is they will field the initial communication from potential volunteers who are interested in taking part in the trial. And my patient liaison teams, what they will do is they will have those conversations with people all around the world, go through the details of the study and assess eligibility against whether or not that trial is going to be right for that person. Now, if we do identify the right person for a trial, because we know that that is sometimes very niche to find the right person, they're then handed off to my patient engagement teams. And what they are, they're a highly trained team, and what they will do is they'll really have in-depth conversations. So make sure that individuals fully understand what's involved with the trial, reassure them further, answer any additional questions that they may have. But what we're looking to do is make sure that we're putting the right person into the right trial first time, every time, to be honest. So yeah, that's basically what my teams do.
So you employ a lot of real niche specialists then?
Yes, they are, to be honest, my teams are brilliant, Chris. They're really, really focused on that patient engagement piece. It's absolutely the be all and everything. And it's absolutely the be all and end all of everything that we do. It's about ensuring that we get the right person into the right place and actually do it in the best possible way that we can for that participant.
Perfect, thank you very much. And finally, Sean.
Hi Chris, so my name's Sean Wood and I'm MAC's Head of Global Volunteer Enrolment Strategy. I work alongside Craig and Nikki and I head up our marketing services both at a national, regional and local level. So my teams are there to help develop high-level strategies, and that'll be to feed into our feasibility teams, looking at prevalence rates in certain areas, looking at analytics and statistics and identifying the most suitable sites to run a clinical trial. My teams are also responsible for networking across private, public and third sector organisations, and this is to help with the development of our recruitment materials, and that's all formed from our patient and public involvement and engagement. Finally, my last team that I'm responsible for is our central and local marketing teams, and they help with the development of recruitment materials, whether it be centrally on paid social media adverts, on digital channels, or whether it's a more traditional approach, networking amongst our local communities, serving diverse populations and working within the public health sector. So my teams are also responsible for the development and execution of our digital and traditional marketing strategies as well. And that'll involve maximising lead generation and driving patient engagement, which is how that then feeds through to the hub and Craig's team's activity.
Perfect, thank you very much. So that's a good insight in relation to what all three of you do and how you contribute significantly in that aspect in relation to the whole aspect of patient recruitment. So moving on to some more specific questions. First one, I just want to know what are the main reasons that clinical trials often face difficulty in recruiting participants.
Shall I take that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Chris. So recruitment is a challenge, okay? And it's quite interesting to look at it across the different stakeholders. They all have different perspectives and all have different insights, your sites, your CROs like MAC, and your sponsors. So certainly from a site perspective, they have hurdles like protocol criteria, geographic location, maybe awareness and mistrust of clinical trials, things like that. Moving over to the CRO side of things, you've got limitations in your data processing, connecting your recruitment to your sites, etc. Maybe the site selection in terms of what they can do and can't do. And certainly from a sponsor perspective, they're looking at where have we gone, why have we gone there, what is our protocol limiting, and things like that. Maybe budget and whatnot can have an impact. So it's quite interesting to look at all the different reasons that impact clinical trial recruitment. And it's obviously one of the biggest hurdles in the industry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think kind of just expanding on what you were saying there, Nikki, because I will tend to see it from the front line, as I tend to call it, from the volunteer perspective. And you usually tend to see four main reasons which are the challenges. So the first one we tend to find is awareness. That's a big issue. People don't know what's going on in their area, where to go. And we have seen a lot more awareness in clinical trials since the pandemic. People are now a lot, because that was everywhere at that point. So that would be the first point I would say. The second one we tend to see again is, and this is probably one of the biggest hurdles we see within the contact center, which is the eligibility. So we are looking for those very niche people, and that's where my team really come in to their own, because we're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, thousands of calls week in, week out, and we're looking for this tiny percentage of the population. But just because you're not suitable for this doesn't mean you're not going to be suitable for another one. So this is where you have those conversations, understand those people, and you can have them ready and build that hope for them that actually, even if you're not suitable for this trial, then it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be one that you're going to be suitable for. And that's really where we build that relationship with people and have that trust. The second one, as a nice segue from what I said there, is trust. There is a big trust element sometimes. Let's be honest, we're asking people to do something that is unknown. I don't know if any of you have ever done that team building exercise where you fall back and your team is supposed to catch you. So even when you're doing that, you stood there, you've got fear, you're scared. Are they going to catch me? Am I going to fall? Am I going to bang my head on the floor? And that's the same kind of fear that our volunteers are potentially having, because they don't know what's going to happen. And this is where we really need the recruitment teams, because what they will do is they can talk through this with people that can find out what their fears are, what the worries are, what the concerns are, and talk them through. And I think that's one of the biggest things I'm really proud of with our teams is that element of that experience that we give our potential volunteers. And then finally, the last one is just simply the logistics. Looking at, can people get in to do the trials, getting their financial aspects, all of those. So those tend to be the four main things that we tend to see within the hub to start off with, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, just adding to that point, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, there are various different issues around awareness, and particularly the benefits of research and what we're trying to achieve as an organisation and as an industry. I think particularly around the benefits that your involvement in research can offer. And a lot of people aren't aware that these trials are taking place on their doorstep and that they're easily accessible to them. It's just not in the public domain. And touching upon what Craig said there around the clinical education of clinical trials and why we need this to be able to advance medicines. And I suppose it's educating communities to understand what it is we're trying to achieve, how they can play a role in that. And actually there's likely to be opportunities on their doorstep that they can step forward and be involved in.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. So we've touched upon before in relation to recruitment and retention, but I just want to go into a little bit more detail if I possibly can. So can you tell me about Mac's recruitment and retention setup, but more explicitly in that case, how do we ensure success in both recruitment and in retention?
I'm going to give you another analogy. Running a successful campaign, I suppose it's kind of a bit like running a successful Formula One team. I'm not a big football fan, so apologies to the Leeds fan here. So I'm going to go with Formula One. But, you look at teams like Ferrari or Red Bull, they don't just get a car and plonk it on the track and hope for the best. You have to make sure that you've got the right team behind you, the right equipment, you're getting the right diagnostics and all of that. And the recruitment is very much like that. It's kind of, have we got the right teams? Have we got everything that we need to do, the right material? Are we getting the feedback loops that we need to do? Where are things going wrong? And that's what Mac do really, really well. So just initially from, the front line again is our recruitment teams. So our hub and our patient engagement teams who see us through from that first point of contact right the way through. We absolutely pride ourselves on having those engagement conversations with people and finding the right people for the trials that we have. And that's deep conversations with them, really understanding the needs, questioning what it is that they want.
I must say that must be a really niche skill set in that respect, and as far as members of your team are concerned.
It is. It's very. It's an absolute skill to do it very, very, very well, and I think we do it extremely well. You tend to think of, if you just think generally of customer service, I tend to work at it from, okay, what do you think is a good level of customer service? What would be classed as world class? And we set the bar very, very high. So if you think of the best customer service you have and that's the bar there, then we expect our teams to be here because we are dealing with those people who don't know what's going on. You've got that fear, you've got the trust issues. Sometimes, Chris, you've got people who are desperate to get on a trial and they don't take it very well if they're not suitable. So how do you deal with all of those things? And these are things that we do extremely well. And those are reflected in our net promoter scores. For those of you who've never heard them, what they are, they're feedback of patients on how well they would recommend Mac and the interactions. And we do this with every person that we talk to. And generally we are well above the industry average within the healthcare industry for the feedback that we get. And some of the feedback we get is absolutely fantastic. So, that's the main core of how we do it. But then the flip side of that is, again, the tools for doing it. So we have a tool within Mac called Symphony, and that is our purpose-built in-house CRM system. And to be honest, that allows us to do it. And so we can look at those feedback loops, what's working, what's not working, and identify all of those different trends. And actually, since that came in, we brought in, I believe it was about 3 years ago, was it, Nikki?
2021.
2021, yep. And actually, since that's been brought in, we've seen a reduction in the waste in our processes within the recruitment teams of about 33%. And the output of that, from a productivity perspective, we've seen outputs increasing up by 400% from where we were before.
Wow, that was a worthwhile investment then.
It was a fantastic investment, and actually, it's a fantastic tool, and it just really helps us deliver and do our jobs. And going back to what I said before about identifying patients for the future studies, that allows us to track all of that. So, what you do today isn't wasted because actually you're investing in that person in the future. And that's where that comes in fantastically.
No, thank you. Anything either of you two would like to add before we move on?
I think just reiterating what Craig's mentioned there in terms of this seamless integration between different business functions and the fact that every employee within Mac has this real-time access, irrespective of where you are in the world. You can log into Symphony for your business purpose and be able to see real-time, whether it's various dashboards or interactions where a patient or a study's at in terms of progress. I've worked in healthcare services previously, and this is probably reflective in terms of the patient satisfaction scores, where you have different operating systems for different functions. So you'll have a patient administration system for booking and scheduling. You'll have a patient pathway management system. So you're having to log into loads of different systems to be able to find out actually what's going on. And I think having this bespoke system which integrates all of those different services, it really is a benefit to the organisation and its employees to be able to access that in real time.
Which is a benefit to the participants.
There you go, benefit.
Their patient journey is what matters.
That is so true. Never a truer word spoken. I want to just ask all of you, what steps can be taken to encourage a broader and more inclusive range of participants?
I can take this one if you like.
No, yeah, it's a good question.
So, I mean, it's a great question. I think diversity in clinical trials is really, really important. I think, as an organisation, we want to ensure that the trials that we run are reflective of an entire population. We want to make sure there's health equities across different communities and different groups. I suppose to answer your question in terms of what can we do to be able to improve that, it really goes back to our setup processes. When we first start with the study, we're looking at how can we be involved in those communities from the onset, and how do we develop our recruitment materials to be able to resonate with them audiences and make sure that we've got the uptake across the board from different communities. And I suppose we start that very early on in our recruitment processes. So when we are awarded a study, we'll go through a recruitment and retention plan in terms of how we're going to deliver that study and what areas we need to look at to be able to maximise our opportunities with those audiences. Through our patient and public involvement activities, we'll be out serving those communities, getting to know what it is that is going to resonate with them most. It might be looking at the way in which our materials are worded. It could be the semantics. It could be, what do they think are going to be practical barriers to being involved in that particular trial. And we really try to profile that audience so we can understand what is going to resonate with them best. And that then feeds into how we can then target them particular audiences when we go through our various marketing activities and making sure that we've got the right messaging coming across and again, for them to be able to understand that the trial is there to benefit them. And I think, the only way to have diversity in clinical trials is to have a diverse approach to your marketing. And it's not just a case of one size fits all. So when we do go through those initial planning strategies, it's around looking at what audience is going to be on what platform or what outreach needs to happen locally to be able to meet the needs of that population. And it's to diversify that marketing approach, you have to have multiple different strategies taking place simultaneously to be able to optimize those recruitment efforts.
It's really about personalized solutions then, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
It's quite interesting actually, because it's nice that we see that approach right the way through, because that, as I was saying before, we take that personalized approach and matching that communication styles with people when my teams are talking to them. But it's nice that we're seeing that actually from marketing right the way through. We're taking that personalized approach and ensure that we're maximizing every single opportunity and getting the right outcome for all of these people, which I think is great. But I think just kind of adding on to what you were saying there, Shaw, I think actually as an industry, we could probably do a lot more as well around this diversity. When you look at kind of the breakdown of the general population versus the people that are taking part in clinical trials, there's still a great deal of work to be done around that. And I know that Sean's team and the rest of MAC have worked incredibly hard at ensuring that we're getting the right people in and into that. And I think that is reflected in some of our results that we are seeing. So prime example, just giving you an example of how we've done that within MAC, and I say we, I mean Sean's team, is, when you look at healthy volunteer trials, when you look at the uptake and participants from ethnic minorities, what you tend to find is that it's usually around about 5.1. That was from the ONS figures from a healthy volunteer trial. And actually on the last trial that we did out of our Manchester clinic, in the UK, that was a 37% uptake of ethnic minorities, which is way above that.
So significantly, I would say.
Yeah, and I think something that we should be really, really proud on, because I think it's something that as a business, we have been conscious of, and we've proactively tried to do that to make sure, as we say, we're getting the right people.
That's what it's about, getting the research to the right people, isn't it?
It is.
No, that's really, really useful. Thank you. So, can I ask, what can be done to make it easy for participants to join and remain on a trial?
I think the clue to that, Chris, is in the question, as the chasers always say. It's about ease of I'm a big advocate of customer ease, making things easy for people to get them on it. So that ranges from everything from the communication, how we contact them. So are we being rigid, old-fashioned, and saying, oh no, you have to call us between these specific times, and that's it, that's the only way you can get in touch with them? Or are we allowing them to use their preferred communication method, whether that be the telephone, which is the traditional method, whether it be email, whether it be text, looking at all of these, looking at web pages and searching on there. So allowing people to get in touch with us the best way for them and the ease for them, and actually
So really offering them flexibility.
Absolutely. Flexibility, that's the key word. And that's across the board, whether it be communication or the time and when they want to contact us. People have jobs, and surprisingly, sometimes they can't phone us between 9 and 5. So we have to be open to allowing those people to get in touch with outside of those, so we look at those diverse times of when people can get in touch with us outside this, like weekends. Can they contact us on weekends? Which they absolutely can. So looking at all of those type of things. So yeah, just ease of communication, and even when they're on the trial, keeping them on the trial, keeping them updated again through those communication streams. And that's the fantastic thing about our recruitment teams. We do have those multi-channel teams that can deal with things, as we talked about, web chat, text messaging, telephones, or however they want to get in touch with us, they can do that. They can do it out of hours, and we'll contact them back. So yeah, the simple answer for me is flexibility and ease.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it really harks back to what Sean was saying earlier about that profile. So, and it varies from country to country, from patient to patient, condition, and even from site to site. And it's about assessing those hurdles to the participants that you've just discussed there and how we overcome them. And they're different in all of those scenarios. But that's why it's so important to not just understand the patient profile and the country profile, but to understand the site profile as well. What potential hurdles might there be, to get into that site, etc. And that's really where building those profiles becomes really essential, because you get those understandings, especially when you involve the participants themselves to kind of give you that feedback and insights, or organizations, that are, used to advocating for those kind of conditions, etc. So yeah, it's all about overcoming those hurdles and understanding what they are.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Because the hurdles in different countries are completely different. What is taken for granted in one place is not available readily in different places. So even when we just think of various things like, getting to a clinic, that might be easy in Germany, for example, but you have somewhere else where actually it's not that easy. So how do we overcome that? How do we get people on board? And that's where the use of all these new digital technologies, like we do, comes into their own. And yeah, again, making life easy.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you're continually adapting then?
Always. If you're not adapting, Chris, you're going backwards.
Yeah, that's so true. My final question you'll be pleased to hear. I just want to know how is Mac using new technologies to improve recruitment and retention?
This is where the hype is, right? This is what everybody is talking about. And imagine a time where getting yourself onto a clinical trial is as simple as booking a flight, because that's where we're heading. That's where the technology is taking us. And that's what really we're aiming to achieve with the use of AI. But it goes much broader than that. All the items that you've both covered today, AI can facilitate things like analysing massive data sets to help target the individual profiles that we've built within databases, within applicants, etc., to help streamline and, speak with the people that are actually able to come through and take part in a trial, and not speaking to people that won't be able to go forward, and therefore, not causing any undue upset or wish to be involved when they can't be. So you can get lots of efficiencies in that way, but it's not just about recruitment, retention as well on a clinical trial. That is another area that AI can support. So things like you've mentioned, the chatbots and the personal assistants that can answer questions in real time, send reminders about what they're involved in and why it's important, to collect quality data and to give a reflective feedback, etc. All these things, wearables, they've been around for ages now, haven't they, wearables? But it allows the participant to give clinical trial data from the comfort of their own home. All of these technologies are really sort of paving the way forward for clinical trials to get more participants involved and to keep those participants involved in terms of retention. And ultimately what it's going to do is those participants are going to feel empowered, supported, and our efficiencies in getting those drugs to market quicker just sees that overall impact. It's interesting as well because there was a study run that actually showed that people are more willing to speak with an AI than they are with a medic, for example, which is a really interesting thing, particularly in the medical industry. And I think it shows that the public are willing to engage with the AI and willing to get advice in terms of the clinical trials and next steps and guidance through from those platforms. And I think what it actually does when you talk about resource is it augments, it's never going to replace the people on the front line doing the work, in the hub, Craig, for example. The quality skill sets that they need to be able to identify the correct candidates. AI is going to augment what they're capable of achieving and take them to the next level. And I think that's the beauty of it all, is it facilitates the resource achieving the ultimate goal, which is to get the right people into the right clinical trials.
It's funny kind of when you look and we talk about technology and all of it, how fast it all advances. If you think, 10 years ago, I couldn't even get my grandma to even look at the internet with a banking or anything like that. And I think when we use these technology, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about ensuring that we're making it easy for our volunteers. Because, when I think about, if I want information, I'll pick up the phone and I'll have a conversation with someone. So if I want to speak to my daughter, I'll phone my daughter up, and guaranteed 9 times out of 10 she'll disconnect me, and then I'll get a text in, "What do you want?" And she doesn't want to talk to me. But then when she's sat at home and she's organising night out with her friends, the backwards and forwards texting going bing, 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 and I'm sitting there going, "This is taking you 30 minutes. Why don't you just pick the phone up and have a conversation?" But that's just because that's how I do things. And actually she does things in a completely different way. I think that's where using this technology can help us to get those right communication methods for people and ensure that we're doing things in the best way that they want to do. And actually all of that will make it easier for us to get people on board. We'll get higher productivity from those areas. Our retention rates will be better. We'll end up having better advocates for the company because we're doing what it is that people want to do. So I think taking it on board from that perspective as well, not only from a business and ensuring that we get the right people, as Sean mentioned and as Nikki mentioned, about how we interact with those. I think is a fantastic opportunity, and I think it's something that we should just constantly be looking at and improving because it never stops.
So it really is a never evolving area then.
Absolutely, and I think what's really interesting is, as AI gets more involved in clinical research, we spend a lot of time training people on the protocol requirements, on all the different tasks that are involved in clinical trials and operations, etc. There will be need to involve training in AI because the ethical concept around AI is still a big topic for debate. And obviously we're dealing with patient confidential and identifiable information. So our staff are going to need training on AI, need to understand what it's feeding in, where it's getting its information from, and how it's going to augment the tasks that we're doing. So it's a really exciting time. But always remembering that is going to become a part of training, I think, within clinical trials to make sure, AI, it's as good as the data that's put into it. So there's always things that could come up that might not be as accurate as we need. And that's where the human factor comes in. But they've got to know how to use that information properly.
Great point. Yeah, thank you. Well, I really appreciate your time today. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience will say the same as well. So I'd just like to conclude by thanking Nikki, Craig, and Sean for their insights on MAC's success in patient and healthy volunteer recruitment. It's all about ensuring a seamless journey from start to finish and helping sponsors bring their treatments to market and much faster, and making a real difference to patients' lives. So thank you. And just in concluding, I just want to say to be sure that you subscribe to our channels to stay updated on upcoming and future episodes of MAC Behind the Trials. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for even more insights.